Ben Shapiro does a segment on his show called Good Trump, Bad Trump. And I actually really like that series Ben Shapiro does. In that series, he talks about some good things Trump has done and some bad things Trump has done. And today, I'm going to kind of be doing the same thing. Recently, a lot of people have asked my opinion on Donald Trump, on Big Daddy Donald J. Trump. Do I still like him? Am I no longer a Trump fan? What's going on? I get it. The election's coming up. People want to know. So today, I am going to be talking about some of my thoughts with Donald Trump. There are some things he's done recently that I like, but unfortunately, there's also a lot of things he's done recently that I not only don't like, but that I strongly disagree with. Personally, I feel really let down by Donald Trump, if I'm being completely honest. As most of you know, I voted for Donald Trump in 2016, and the behavior that I've seen, especially recently from Donald Trump, it's not what I voted for. And I'm just really disappointed because I've never been a Trump hater. Obviously, I'm a Trump voter. I still am kind of rooting for Donald Trump. I'm certainly not rooting against him because when Trump succeeds, America succeeds. So I want to see Trump do well. And I think that a lot of people, when they talk about their issues with Donald Trump, they approach it with a lot of bias. And although I do think that Trump has really abused the fake news term, originally, I believe its original meaning was meant to draw attention to the fact that a lot of media had a bias and a slant against Donald Trump. So I want to approach some of these criticisms I have of Donald Trump as objectively as I can. I'm not interested in tearing the president down. Quite the opposite. However, I am pretty let down by a lot of things Trump has done recently. So we're going to go over some of those things, and then I'm going to talk to you guys about a few of the things Trump has done that I really like. Also, really quick, I'm not sure when I'm going to put this in, but I know there's going to be a lot of fuckwits in my comments that say something like, "Oh, so I guess Hunter's actually voting for Joe Biden now." To which I would say, no, I don't like Joe Biden. I think he's a complete dipshit. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. Just if I criticize Trump doesn't mean I'm voting for Biden. Okay? I hate everything. I'm the enlightened centrist, remember. Okay. All right, go and back to the video now. Enjoy, everybody. Now, I talked about this clip extensively on a video on my secondary channel, so if you guys want to check that out, you can if you want some more details. But recently, Trump was at his rally in Oklahoma, where he called for protesters who burned the American flag to be jailed for 1 year. Listen to this.
We ought to come up with legislation that if you burn the American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. 1 year.
So this happened very recently. I saw it on Twitter, and as soon as I watched this clip, I was so incredibly disappointed. I don't think burning the flag is appropriate. I think it's douchey and rude, and I think that the people who do it tend to be stupid little rat weasels. So I get it. I don't like burning the American flag, and I understand that there are a lot of people here that are trying to be patriotic, so they take offense when people burn the flag as well. However, it is your freedom of speech, it is your freedom of expression, it is your constitutional right to burn the American flag because it is a political statement. I mean, this is just ridiculous, and it really is ridiculous how many of these dimwits in the background are cheering and clapping for this kind of thing. I mean, this is like North Korea. We're gonna start imprisoning people for burning the American flag? Why? What's next? Maybe some people think that the president is the symbol of America. Maybe some people think that the president really, he represents America. Even more so, a lot of people have tragically died being the president. So you know what? I think you should go to jail for 1 year if you insult the president. Obviously, no one would agree with that logic. Obviously, everyone would agree that's absolutely ridiculous, and that would be a violation of your freedom of speech. It is a violation of your freedom of speech for Donald Trump to be calling for jailing protesters who burned the American flag. And clips like this, I'm honestly appalled by it, because this is not what I voted for. Not to mention, the Supreme Court has already ruled that burning the American flag is freedom of speech, and it is your constitutional right. On June 21st, 1989, a deeply divided United States Supreme Court upheld the rights of protesters to burn the American flag in a landmark First Amendment decision. This kind of rhetoric is authoritarian. This kind of rhetoric is fascistic. I used to laugh in the face of people that would say Donald Trump sometimes acts like a fascist, but this is really getting on edge. Try to imagine if this was any different. Try to imagine if we were going to start throwing people in prison for a year if they burned the gay flag. I'm pretty sure these same people cheering back here would be having a fucking conniption because their constitutional rights would be being infringed upon. Even more so, it's just so contradictory because Trump is always railing on Twitter about censorship. He's always railing on about it to his like 70 million Twitter followers or some shit about censorship or whatnot, when Donald Trump is really advocating to censor people by throwing them in prison for exercising their constitutional rights. So this is the first thing Donald Trump said the other day that I was really disappointed by. I felt pretty let down by this. So this next one is going to be controversial, and I know that people are going to be really damn butthurt, but I ask that you just hear me out before you judge, all right? But I am strongly against Donald Trump's call to label Antifa a terrorist organization. So why is that? Am I over here supporting Antifa now? Have I gone full soy boy leftist cuck, as everyone claims? No. I hate Antifa. They're rat weasels. They're losers. They belong in their mom's basement. They do very little good. They mostly cause chaos. I hate them. All right? I do not like Antifa. This is not me trying to defend Antifa, but this is me saying that Antifa has no central organization. You literally can't label them a terrorist organization because all Antifa are random people that put on masks and call themselves anti-fascist. Let me ask you this. If there's no central Antifa terrorist organization, right? There's no central Antifa organization to begin with. How do you prove to a court of law that someone is actually associated with Antifa? How do you do it? Because I'm pretty sure I've been called Antifa before, guys. All right, people like to throw that term around. So if there's no central organization, it's really hard to prove to a court of law that someone is Antifa. So that leaves that definition extremely subjective for fuck knows who to just start labeling people Antifa and getting you either in significant legal trouble where you have to go through some kind of a court process or something, or B, you get put on some kind of a terrorist watch list. And even if you're not Antifa, then your right to purchase a firearm is going to be infringed upon. So who's going to enforce this and who's going to decide who is Antifa and who isn't? I think this is hypocritical because you might remember back in like 2018, it was really common for those on the left to start screaming that it was okay to punch a Nazi. And I would say things like, well, how do you know who's a Nazi? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes the left just labels anyone they don't like as a Nazi. Now you can just place that label on a person, and boom, you have justification to assault them. This is the same kind of thing. It's the same kind of slippery slope that you go down when you begin deciding who and who isn't Antifa, and that subjective decision would then determine whether or not you go to jail for being a terrorist or get put on a terrorist watch list. So again, please do not misconstrue what I'm saying. I appreciate people watching this in good faith. I am not defending Antifa. I am simply saying that Trump's call to label them a terrorist organization takes us in a very dangerous direction. And finally, here is another thing Trump has done that I was just really disappointed by, and that is this whole situation. You guys remember this, right? A couple of weeks ago, I talked about this on my secondary channel as well. This man went to approach the police, and they pushed him to the ground, where you can see him here laying here. There's a bit of blood. It was actually really disturbing. And the officers who pushed him were fired, and I believe they're being charged with assault as well. So this was a very serious and blatant display of police brutality. This was a blatant display of state violence towards protesters, a peaceful protester at that. So this was a really, really bad thing to happen. Virtually everyone that saw the clip was on the side of this guy. I mean, he has cancer, he was pushed to the ground, and he was stable but in critical condition. It was just a really shocking display of police brutality. And how did Donald Trump respond to this? Did he respond by calling out the police? No. Donald Trump instead targeted this man with some kind of complete and utter nonsense conspiracy theory crap. Listen to this. Trump said Buffalo protesters shoved by police could be an Antifa provocateur. 75-year-old Martin Guino was pushed away after appearing to scan police communications in order to black out the equipment. At OANN, I watched. He fell harder than was pushed, was aiming scanner. Could be a setup? First of all, how the hell do you know if someone fell harder than they were pushed? Second of all, why is the President of the United States watching OANN? They're like the Walmart version ripoff of fucking InfoWars. And lastly, this conspiracy is just that, a conspiracy, completely baseless. I would also like to add, notice how he's calling this guy Antifa? A little dangerous when the president also wants to label Antifa as a terrorist organization, right? This man is not Antifa. He is a peaceful protester, and I believe he was an activist. According to the Washington Post, the FBI's internal situation report on the May 31st protest in Washington says the field office has no intelligence indicating Antifa involvement/presence. Justice Department records show no links to Antifa in relevant cases. I think that this really sets a bad example. It's the president's job to spread accurate information. The guy who rails on and on all day long about fake news, spreading these baseless, asinine conspiracy theories about a 75-year-old man with brain cancer falling victim to state brutality. And now he's slandering this gentleman as an Antifa provocateur. Like, could you imagine that if you're a 75-year-old private citizen and you fell down because you were pushed by some dipshit cop, and then you wake up in the hospital after the whole world has seen the horrific thing happen to you, and the president of the United States is up there tweeting that you're some kind of Antifa provocateur, like pushing some kind of a conspiracy theory that he fell harder than he was pushed and had some kind of a scanner. This is just false information. There's no real nuanced way to put it. It's just spreading information that's blatantly false. It's not been proven. And in fact, it's been proven false. So to see the President of the United States spreading false information about private citizens who fell victim to police brutality, this was really, really disappointing for me to see. Again, coming from someone who's rooting for Trump, I want to see Trump succeed here. But this is not succeeding. This is just blatant fucking lying. All right, guys, so that's a couple things Trump's done in recent history that has really disappointed me and has really let me down. But Trump isn't just doing things bad, doing things I disagree with. He's also done a couple things that I really like and I really do agree with. So I'd like to go over that now. Recently, in response to the massive protests after George Floyd's unjust murder, Trump signed an executive order incentivizing police reforms. And a lot of activists were bitching and crying that this didn't go far enough, but this is absolutely a great start in holding the police to higher standards. The order would create federal incentives through the Justice Department for local police departments that seek independent credentialing to certify that law enforcement is meeting higher standards for the use of force and de-escalation training. Trump specifically noted that those standards would include banning the use of chokeholds, an especially controversial tactic that has led to the high-profile deaths of multiple African-American men, except if an officer's life is at risk. Trump's order would also incentivize local departments to bring on experts in mental health, addiction, and homelessness as co-responders to help officers manage these complex encounters. And it would encourage better information sharing to track officers with credible abuses to prevent them from moving from one department to the next. So, of course, people hate Trump. They will find a reason to hate Trump no matter what. But I think this is a great start. Starting a database where we can keep track of the misbehavior of police officers is a really good way to hold police officers accountable, and it will keep officers with what they say credible abuses from moving to different stations if they get fired from one district or whatnot. You know, it basically just holds officers accountable, and it makes sure that a bad officer isn't able to get a job working with a different police district. I also like that this will ban the use of chokeholds. So this is something I really like that Trump is doing. And, you know, I even see people on the right like criticizing Trump and saying that he's like giving in to the left or whatnot. But I like how Trump has an ability to try and work with both sides sometimes. I can appreciate that. And I appreciate that Trump sees what's going on, and chose to respond in a pretty appropriate way. I do think that there needs to be more done, of course, but this is a great start in reforming the police and holding our officers to a higher standard. So, great job, Trump. I like this, and I approve. Another thing Trump has done recently is he rolled out a national plan to address veteran suicides. Trump said, "This historic campaign will mobilize every sector of American society to encourage heroes in need, empower them with the best prevention practices, and help every veteran thrive in their lives after service. They come home from these active battlefields and active places, and all of a sudden, they're left sometimes alone, and they have a hard time with it. They fought our battles overseas, and now we must join them in winning this new battle at home." So that's something very respectable. Really appreciate what Trump's saying here. And of course, who can disagree? Less suicides, the better. Let's take care of our vets. They've taken care of us. So I can really appreciate this thing that Trump is doing. It seems to be, again, a really great start at preventing veteran suicides. Well, there you guys have it. 2 or 3 things Trump has done recently that I strongly disagree with, and a few things Trump has done recently that I really like. That's my issue of good Trump, bad Trump. Thank you, Mr. Ben Shapiro, for the idea. Hope you don't sue me for copyright or anything. Let me know down in the comments section if you agree with my criticisms of Donald Trump. If you don't agree, what you do agree with, just let me know in the comment section below. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for new videos almost every single day. Come on, guys. Click that subscribe button. You don't want to miss out. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I will see you all soon. Peace.